Hey y'all, it's Sarah, the wine loving bookworm, back with a book review for you on your Monday night. Sorry I didn't get around to it yesterday, it just got a little crazy for me. So tonight we'll have to do. Okay, so let's jump right in. I'm super tired. I hate doing these on Mondays because I'm always tired from working and it's just like I feel like I'm in a rush and I don't want to be in a rush, but it is what it is. So let's start with the wine. As y'all know, I am a big fan of the Publix BOGOs, and this was on sale. Clemente VII. It's a Chianti, which I'm a big fan of Chiantis. I feel like they're light. They're so great with like Italian food, pasta. There's a great little pasta place down the street from us. And I love getting the Chianti there. They come in these little cute glasses, and I just love it. So when I saw that, I'm like, I have to pick it up. So let's give it a shot. That's good, but that is a little bit heavier than your normal Chianti. Let me try it one more time. It's like slightly heavier than a normal Chianti. I feel like maybe I should have chilled it because a lot of the restaurants I go to, Italian places, they chill it. So maybe that's part of the problem. But this one, it's okay, but it's not exactly what I would think of a Chianti being. So let's move on to the book. This is probably a kind of controversial book. And first of all, let me show you my shirt. Let's see if I can like get up at all. It says back to back World War champs. Because I'm reading a book about a president or a first lady. So I had to wear my America shirt, back to back World War champs, right? Anyway, this is probably controversial, but I read Michelle Obama's Becoming. I am not an overly political person. I read it as a biography. I was kind of interested in what she had to say. Obviously, that was a historic win for, he is mixed. He's half white and half black, so people sometimes forget about that. But for who he was, that was a historic win in our country, and I don't think anybody can deny that, whether you love him or hate him. Anyway, I read this book as a biography, as a book, as, how good of a writer she was. I'm not thinking politics here at all. And this was kind of raved about. So, everybody knows who Michelle Obama is. Everybody obviously knows this is a biography. I'm going to skip all that. So, I'm kind of winging it here tonight too. I didn't do notes. I just kind of dog-eared pages because I've been just so busy lately. So, bear with me as I go through this. I will say, first of all, overall, I didn't love the book. And, I've read a lot of stuff about, people who are liberal and that they love it. And that's fine. And maybe they did. I don't like a lot of books that other people like. There is something like, there's like a disconnect with her. Like she is not very, she doesn't convey emotion well. And you can almost see like she's trying to convey it. And I can't put my finger on it. Something about it doesn't come across. And she admits she's very analytical. She's very anal. She's very inside the box kind of person, which her husband is not. So maybe that's part of it. But I just kept hoping for more passion almost. And it just didn't happen. Like she would talk about how she felt emotional, but for some reason it wasn't coming through. So overall, I didn't love it. I thought parts of it were very interesting. I liked learning about her experience in the White House. But overall, I didn't love the book. I have read Barack Obama's books, Dreams of My Father and The Audacity of Hope. That's a totally another story. Like his passion and his emotion definitely comes through in those books. So I think it's just a factor of her being a different kind of writer, a different kind of person. So I'm just going to jump in and I'm going to give you some highlights of what I thought were the best parts of the book, parts that kind of grabbed me. So again, bear with me as I'm kind of flipping through this, trying to find my dog-eared pages. I should have been better prepared, sorry. Okay, let's see. One of the things that did strike me about her is that she came from a poorer, not necessarily poor, but poorer area of Chicago her dad worked for like the water board, I think. Her mom was stay at home. They didn't have a lot of money. She had a brother. But she was exceptional in school. And it kind of reminded me almost of myself. I mean, not to toot my own horn, but I was in the gifted classes in school. School always came easy to me. She went to Princeton. I did not go to Princeton. And she just had this like amazing trajectory. And then she went to law school. And then it was like she's going to be a lawyer. And she's working for this great firm. But she felt just not like she was doing the right thing. And there was one, like, that wasn't her passion. That wasn't where her heart was. I can relate to that a lot. And she actually talked to her mom about it. And she said, well, I feel bad telling my mom this because they grew up poor in Chicago, on the south side of Chicago. And here I am, a Harvard educated, she went to Princeton, then Harvard Law School lawyer, making all this money. And I'm like, wah, 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 I don't love my life, So that was one thing I kind of related to her on that level, because it's almost like when you do so well in school, you sometimes have, and with her personality too, you sometimes have a little bit of trouble, in the quote unquote real world. So, that was really interesting to me. Let's see. Oh, and then her dad died of MS. He was pretty young. And that really affected her too. And that, obviously I've been through that with my father passing away a year and a half ago. So some of that resonated with me, like her being in the hospital with him, holding his hand, all that stuff. And he was a very strong guy, just like my father. And when he was failing and like he couldn't walk, he would still like go to work. And she said this one morning she watched him like walk outside and sit down on the steps because he was so just exhausted from the MS and all the symptoms. But then he got up, he got in his car, went to work. So strong. And that reminded me a lot of my father. So I did, I really liked that part of it too. There was also, she and Barack Obama were very different. Like I said, she's very, toe the line, do the right thing all the time. And he was more like, woohoo, I love the chaos and I embrace the chaos, and she hated the chaos. And he never wanted to get married. He was just like, it's why, and blah, 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 blah. He would say that. And then the night he proposed to her, they went out to this like really nice restaurant, and he actually started an argument with her about why they shouldn't get married and all this stuff. And they were going back and forth like lawyers do, arguing with each other. And she's like, I just want to get married and blah, blah, blah. And she's getting upset. And the waiter comes and brings the dessert, and there's a ring right in the cake. So he just totally bamboozled her on that whole thing. And I love that. I love that story. I thought that was amazing. It was such a cute story. He's from Kenya. I know. Well, he's not from Kenya. Freudian slip. He is from Hawaii, but his father was from Kenya. And he has a half sister that lives in Kenya. So they talked about how, they went to Kenya to visit, and how she felt real connected to Africa, but also at the same time, like, pretty separated, Yes, she's black, but she's also pretty privileged at this point in her life, going to Harvard, going to Princeton, being a lawyer. So there was this disconnect with it that she wasn't exactly comfortable with, I think, a lot. And then again, we were talking, you're talking about him coming from a community organizing background. That was what his real impetus was. He loved doing that stuff. She always kind of it always seemed like he was on point with what he wanted to do, what his passion was, and she's kind of like floundering. And she ended up leaving the big law job and moving into first she did some sort of community organizing thing, and then she worked for a hospital, and she loved doing that. And it's like she finally found her passion. So it's almost like you have her just thinking like, this is my path. I go to Princeton, I go to Harvard, I become a lawyer, I make, $500,000 a year, and you're happy. And she wasn't happy. And so she had to learn that, you got to follow your passions. And I think Barack Obama always knew that. And he kind of just followed what he wanted to do, to hell with everyone else. And whether that was how he was raised or what, they were very different in that regard. So when she starts talking about when he became president, there was a lot of interesting things in there. But some of it didn't connect. Like, I didn't really get that human connection with her, like I said before. But she would say things like, one of the things I did connect to was that she was a mom and her kids were just always her priority. And when they were on the campaign trail at one point, they were like in Montana, and it was Malia's birthday, and 4th of July is her birthday. So they had to go campaign, and they were at like a fair, and they were doing all this political stuff, and they went back to the hotel, and they had to have her like pseudo birthday party in the conference room of the hotel, and they just felt horrible about it. It was like Secret Service guys and like her assistants and a couple hastily wrapped presents, and her and Brock felt horrible about it. But then Malia looked at them and was just like, this was the best birthday ever. And they were just thinking, oh my gosh, this girl is just so happy to have spent the day running around a fair and, being with her parents and then coming back here and all the attention's on her. She's not thinking about the fact that, the whole day wasn't about her. They didn't throw her a huge party. So to me, that was a very tender moment. And you can tell how fiercely she loves her children and she protects them. There was an instance when he was president that Malia wanted to go just spontaneously have ice cream with her friend, and they wouldn't let her do that. They were like, well, we got to call the head of your security detail, and that person happened to, not be on at that time, and it was like this hour-long process of figuring this stuff out. And that's when Michelle was like, okay, listen, if my kid wants to, like, go have ice cream, this cannot happen. Like, we just y'all need to go with her, and she needs to go. We can't have this hour-long delay. And one of the other things was there was so much pomp and circumstance around Barack. Like, if he was going to go anywhere, they had to sweep the place, and there was snipers, and there, all this stuff. And, he ended up not going to a lot of his daughter's events, their meets, their sports events, because it just brought so much attention on him. And I'm sure they were like, really, like, our friends think this is ridiculous. There was one moment where they were walking through a school, and there was a bunch of kindergartners, and they were at the school for some reason, and there were snipers on the building, and the daughter just looked at him like, oh, really? These are kindergartners, but you have to constantly be cognizant and aware of everything. And there were things, about things that she would say that would get taken out of context, something about her being proud to be an American now. And that like little snippet was taken out of the whole speech, but it wasn't in context, and everybody jumped on her about it, saying, oh, now you're proud to be American, and you're like the hysterical black woman, and that kind of thing. So there's a learning curve, at learning to be a first lady and learning your place and learning what to do. So I would say she definitely lets you in to a lot of her life. A lot of the fact that she felt super overwhelmed by her life. There was a moment when they had just found, he had just won, and because he's president-elect, now he has a huge security detail. And she was waiting, I think it was like in Chicago or something, she's waiting for him to come, and they were going to fly to D.C., I believe that's the setup. And she was waiting with her Secret Service guy, and he just looked at her and was like, your life is about to radically change. And like 10 minutes later, the presidential motorcade comes in, and it's like limos and police and guys with machine guns, and she's just thinking, holy crap, And one of the things that struck me is when he gave his acceptance speech, in Chicago that night he won, the first time around, they said they had a huge bulletproof glass thing, around the stage. And you don't really notice that, I guess, on TV, but, thinking you're constantly in worry about your husband's life, about your life, your kid's life, are they going to be kidnapped? Are they going to, So it's that little things. And that she was able to convey well. And I enjoyed those little parts of it. And I enjoyed her being a mother myself, her insight into how difficult it was and how much she just focused on these kids trying to have as normal a life as possible. So those were the good parts of the book. Overall, though, it just kind of fell flat. Like I said, there's not a lot of passion. There's not a lot of emotion in the book. But it was interesting. I would recommend it to read. But just, kind of go into it knowing that it's going to be, she's not her husband. And she makes that very clear, too, throughout the book. Like, I'm not him. I don't have this passion and this rousing charisma that he has always had. So I would give it, I don't know, maybe 3 out of 5 stars. I did like a lot of just the basic information she conveyed and her experience as being First Lady. But again, there wasn't that just passion, that emotion there. And it's like something that you can't really define or put your finger on. You just know it when you see it, that kind of thing. So anyway, went a little bit over tonight, but that's Becoming by Michelle Obama. So pick it up. And this week, I'm going to read My Absolute Darling by Gabriel Talent, I guess. So I was at book club, and they were saying this book is, like, super disturbing, and, you know, and then I'm like, oh, I gotta read it. You know, now you just totally made me want to understand what's going on in this book. So we're going to see how this goes this week, because I don't necessarily like super disturbing stuff, but it's like, you can't tell me that and be like, don't buy it. Like, of course I'm going to buy it now. So My Absolute Darling, I'm going to read this week. As long as I can get through it, I'm going to try my best. And anyway, that's it for me. So Chianti, I feel like maybe I need to try it chilled. Maybe I'll do that and give y'all an update on it. But let's try it one more time. Yeah, just a little heavy to me. But I will put it in the refrigerator and try it again, and then I'll let you guys know if it was like any different. So I hope you guys have an amazing week. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next week when I review My Absolute Darling. Cheers!